I thank you for giving me the opportunity to reflect seriously on a document that requires very little attention. It requires very little attention for the following reasons. First of all, as a budget document, it is sorrowfully missing in substance and in content. Can you imagine, Madam Speaker, that the budget speech, 15 pages of it, double-spaced, or only a quarter of the intentions and the length in the throne speech a mere 24 hours before? Now, what does that tell you? Well, Madam Speaker, it tells you, first of all, that when you have a throne speech or speech from the throne, the government lays out its big vision, its big plan, its direction for where the country should be going. It gives people a sense of what this government or this country can be. We all know what this country can be. We know what it's been, and we know where it should be going. We really wanted to see whether the government is up to the task of all Canadians and the ambition that's resident in our nation, the potential that resides for all of us who live in Canada and who call this country our home, who call this country our future. Someone talked about maybe it's a place where we can seek hope. No, we live it every day. Every day, Canada is a future for each one of us. And we wanted to see whether the government would be up to the task. So we look with bated breath while the government recalibrated itself for 3 months. It shut down the entire democratic process so that it could give its attention to meeting the challenge that every Canadian lives on a daily basis. And so what did they do? Well, they come up with a budget. The budget is the amount of expenditures that a government will put to the realization of those ambitions that are resident in every Canadian's life and which are expressed through a speech from the throne. How disappointed must every Canadian be after listening to the prattling of the Minister of Finance in the budget? I'll tell you, Madam Speaker, every Canadian watching that performance or lack thereof was looking at the ways to judge this. And they said, well, you know, the only thing that we can do on a budget is to examine whether to deliver it exude a competence. S'ils sont compétents, s'il y a une compétence inhérente dans le budget, if there is credibility, can these people actually do things? Can they deliver them? Is there a trust factor? And indeed, whether there is a vision for the country. On all of those criteria, on all and each and every one, the answer would be an unfailing no. Look at the competence that we have before us. The government is the same one that a mere 12 months ago said, don't worry, be happy. We are the strongest nation economically and fiscally in the entire G8. No problem, no recession. Put to the wall by the members of the opposition parties on this side of the House. What happened? They said, oh, well, we made a mistake. No, it's in fact, there's a worldwide recession. It's synchronized, just like swimmers in a pool. It's synchronized, and it was going to hit us. So what we now have to do is let's dissolve Parliament. And let's hear what the opposition had to say. This is after 6 months of no sitting of Parliament in 2008. They came back, and what did they do, Madam Speaker? They said, oh, maybe you're right. You know what we're going to do is we are going to go into deficit finance. We're going to spend money we don't have, even though we were the richest, and of our potential and the books that we had in fiscal responsibility. No, we don't have any money. We're going to borrow it. And we're going to do two things with it. First, we're going to spend about $16 billion in infrastructure programs. You know, Madam Speaker, some people are watching this program and they're wondering, what does that mean when you have money spent for infrastructure? Well, is it capital-intensive items? Is it spending in parity-producing enterprises? Is it spending in transportation? Is it spending in gateway strategies? Is it spending in something that someone can point to 5 years, 10 years, 15 years down the road and say, that was money well spent. We were happy to make a debt because we know that we got something that's worthwhile out of it, something that's durable, something that all Canadians can point to and say it's their own. Did we get that, Madam Speaker? No. There isn't a single Canadian in this room that can say, oh, grand strategy. Oh, yes, the money was well spent. Fact of the matter is the money hasn't been spent. The government allowed $3 billion already to lapse. They say they've allocated about 90% of those $16 billion, but who knows? Who knows? That's the same people who said that we had a surplus when we were looking at a deficit. And then they turned around and they said, well, we're going to put another $16 billion. So now we've got $16 billion for infrastructure. That's money that we actually got, and we've got to build something with it. And then we have another $16 billion that they have now started to call stimulus. Remember, we didn't need stimulus because we were already in great shape. We were told to be happy. So in stimulus, that means essentially they're giving up on money that they knew they weren't going to get because the economy was in terrible shape anyway. That's really what it means. It means as well that they were getting prepared to spend more money on employment and payments. You know how much more, Madam Speaker? And this is why I talk about competence. 500,000 jobs lost in 2009. 500,000. Not your entry-level type jobs, but jobs that pay a substantial wage for men and women who have a family to raise and who are in the business of making sure that the Canadian dream becomes a reality for all of their families. Those 500,000 jobs are gone. They're gone from forestry, they're gone from fishing, they're gone from agriculture, agri-production, they're gone from mining, they're gone from the auto sector. And what were they replaced with? Think about these people and what they call a budget of last week. Oh, 130,000 jobs, the Minister of Finance says we created last year. Yeah, 90% of them, all at minimum wage and all part-time. What are they going to do for the 500,000 Canadians who have exhausted and who are about to exhaust their unemployment insurance? They say they're going to ease transfers to provinces. The provinces are going to have to pick up the balance. We're going to find ourselves in a situation that's more critical than it was last year. These are people that demand credibility. A document like that is worth thinking about as a serious budget document. Like every Canadian that's watching this and following the House of Commons should be absolutely outraged that the Prime Minister of Canada would tell Canadians that he was going to recalibrate so that he could re-sanitize a system that he soiled and that he disrupted. That's what this budget really represents. And you have the Minister of Finance waving around something. This is a prop. You wouldn't allow me to do it, but he does it, okay? He took half an hour to read 15 pages. They used to call those slow readers. You know why? Because there's no substance in there. He had to do it for effect. Not only was there no substance, as I said a moment ago, there's no vision. Where are we going to be? You know what the mantra is, Madam Speaker? Think about of wasting the efforts of all parliamentarians. The mantra is going to be, oh, we're going to not tax. Well, hold on. You just taxed $30 billion last year. Oh, I'm sorry. That was a mistake. $53 billion, because that's the deficit. Also, another $100 billion, because that's what they say they lost in terms of increasing the debt. Now, Madam Speaker, I know you're a person that is anxious to make everything relevant to everybody, but you know what $100 billion, it's $3,000 out of your pocket. It's $3,000 out of the pockets of these pages and pagettes that are out here in the service of the House of Commons. It's $3,000 for every man, woman, and child under every roof and outside of a roof in the country. And then another $53 billion in the deficit. That's another $2,000. Every single man, woman, and child in this country lost $5,000 thanks to their incompetence last year. $5,000. These are people with a vision, people taxing, and taxing all year, and they're going to increase taxes so they can level off the deficit. Madam Speaker, there is nothing so tragic as the Minister of Finance standing up and crowing about the efficiencies of a government that he and the Prime Minister led down to perdition, that they've been doing their worst, their best, to ruin the economy of this country and the dreams of every Canadian. Shame on them.